Speed freaks are pathologically possessed by the need to go fast, whether it be on a truck, or a rocket truck squig buggy, or even a warbiker. They are pathological about their need to go faster. Painting their vehicles red, the belief in the red ones going faster manifesting itself in the red ones actually going faster. Orcs recently have discovered a way to go much faster than painting something red. After a Mad Mech was shot through his own shock attack gun, he determined that it would not be that hard to simply move an entire fucking vehicle through it. Thusly, the Shokkjump Dragsta was born. After many bloody trials, one mad boy known as White Knuckle lived through the experiment and subsequently became the Shock Boss. Now he leads a well-known and feared wing of, or possibly outright a detachment, Speed Mob. Jump Dragstas function off of their main shock tunnel assembly, which is the same rudimentary application to hyper advanced technology that the orcs have. Holes in reality and teleporting grots into enemies was not enough for the mech gun gubbins. Upon conceiving the idea of simply making a giant enough hole for an entire vehicle to drive through an unsuccessful test phase even for an orc, leading to White Knuckle and the Shock Boss. Its main weapon is a custom shock rifle, a terrifying weapon that has the same holes in its opponents that teleports Grot across the field with the shock attack gun. If that wasn't enough heavy firepower, they strapped a rocket launcher on it just to be sure. Any orc vehicle is not complete without a melee option, and they are complete with saw blades in the front, spinning at hazardous speeds, ready to tear anyone dumb enough to get in their way. This technology is so weird and arcane even for orcs. It is not advisable to be around it for long, leading to the pilots being weird, as you might have guessed by the story of White Knuckle. It features a Grot gunner who clings for dear life onto the custom shock rifle, and on top of that, the piece de resistance, a targeting squig. The height of orc aiming technology, a squig whose brain is strapped in so that you can use its eyes to shoot somewhat better for the crazed orcs. Or should I say, terrified Grot clinging to the trigger while he hopefully hits something. All of this ends up with a rather mad package that can teleport around the battlefield at almost will, or put you on a wall. And if you're an orc, that's not a big deal, because you're gonna teleport all the time, right? Because it's never gonna fail, right? Imagine, if you will, you're defending a fortress. Outside of said fortress, there are hordes of orc boys with their Shootas and their Choppas, and they have power claws, and they're shooting kill cannons, and storm boys are coming on your walls, and you're managing to fight them off, just barely holding your own. Last gun and faith in the Emperor, the only things keeping you alive. Finally, reinforcements have arrived. There is a sentinel walker coming to smite the fell Xenos from the walls of your fortification. Upon arrival, and when they merely enter the battlefield from your prepared position, behind them apparate a vehicle painted black and yellow with a screaming Grot who maybe is sizzling a little bit and knows probably about what happens to the other Grots who get near the shock attack guns, who opens fire promptly upon this walker and slays your erstwhile saviors. Quite a whimsical thing on the tabletop and in the lore, with its ability to teleport around, shoot wacky guns, and have hilarious little bits of squig attached to it. The reality of a vehicle teleporting in and then destroying everything. The technology that you cannot understand. You don't know how things are being destroyed. All you know is that these vehicles that you counted on to save you are now burning in piles, and the orcs have finally mounted their attack. As you shoulder your las gun and prepare to fire, you are struck from behind by these whirling blades that spin with the force of a chain axe wielded by a world eater. Is what facing a Shokkjump Dragsta would be like in the Warhammer lore. The capability of it to destroy vehicles and move outside of the striking range of infantry inside of fortifications, and then mow down a group of light infantry or even melee a light vehicle is astounding and actually quite terrifying. These vehicles, while hilarious to somebody like me, would probably be one of the most absurdly intimidating things you can encounter in the grimdark future of the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I hope you enjoyed this. We'll be getting into the list here in a second. The list features heavily Shokkjump Dragstas, big mechs who are the only orcs mad enough to field these insane weapons, and the only ones mechy enough to create it. Everybody, so let's talk about this list that I've made for you all. If I sound a bit more spry, it's because I literally just woke up, and I had determined that if I didn't get that recorded at that period, I probably wouldn't get it done. So we got it recorded, and now we are here, a little bit more spry, with a list under our belt. I think this list is delicious. It starts off with an air wing detachment of 3 Dakka jets, each with 6 super shooters. So each of them puts out 18 strength 6, AP -1, damage 1 shots. Quite delicious stuff. These you will use as an aggressive unit of airplanes to come in and harry your opponent with mass amounts of heavy weapons fire on vehicles. Ideally, this will be taking out infantry, but if they do have light vehicles, these will do work. And since they hit on 4s, generate extra shots on 6s, ideally or bad moons, rerolling 1s. The math here is getting reckless. You can see what is happening. This complements as a aggressive attack force a brigade detachment. That is also a Waaaagh detachment from the Vigilus book. The brigade detachment is led by 2 big mechs on Warbike. Each are the same with a KFF custom force field and big Choppa. Each custom force field is there to prevent your opponent from doing too much damage in return to you in shooting. You might not even care about these KFFs. Maybe you want to sack the big Choppa and go for the KFF and go for a shock attack gun, because this list, there's not a whole bunch to protect if you play it a certain way. So if you're playing it that way, sack the KFF, go for the shock attack gun, run these around as an even more aggressive unit. Maybe keep the KFF on one of them and go for the shock attack gun on the other one. Then there is 6 groups of Gretchin. One of them has 3 extra ones, bringing it up to 13 Gretchin. The Gretchin are there to form a outer perimeter around your big mechs on Warbike, if they're in there, or your big mech with shock attack gun, which will undoubtedly be in there. And they're reinforced by the elite selection of 3 groups of Kommandos, 4 Kommandos and a Kommando with a big Shoota. They really are there for the big shooters, a nice cheap big Shoota, but they are also a decent selection to counter insertion with a really, really good troop that will do work in melee. If you think 5 Kommandos won't do work in melee, especially when backed up by a Warboss on Warbike, one of those big mechs on Warbike, you have a pretty decent counter melee force there that should be able to handle whatever they throw your way after it gets through all of the fire from the Dakka jets and what's coming after this in the fast attack selection. Because there might be a bunch of units. You have a Boom Dakka Snazwagon, which has the mech special, which is a strength 9, is it an assault 9, strength 5, AP -2, damage 1 weapon. Then there's also a custom boom blasta, which is a 36-inch, strength 7, AP -2, damage flat 2. I think the mech special on the boom Dragstas wagon is a 24-inch weapon. So these two are interchangeable. You can take more custom boom blastas or more boom Dragstas wagons depending on what you're feeling or what you think you might face. They are both really tasty. They're both there for a specific reason. That's anti-horde. The custom boom blasta does get a 43 flamer. Then the piece de resistance, not last but not least, there's the Shokkjump Dragstas. Shokkjump Dragstas in this list are really a meat of the detachment. You bring 5 of them. You bring a group of 2 and a group of 3. So that brings you up to 4 fast attacks, making up 800 points of this 200-point list. 500 of those points is 600 of those points is Shokkjump Dragstas, which is quite a potent number of Shokkjump Dragstas because 5 gets you 10 of those custom shots from those some shock cannon. I don't know if that's exactly the name, but that's what we're calling it for now. 10 custom shock cannon shots are quite delicious, followed up by 5 rocket launcher shots, and then 20 attacks at strength 5, AP -1, damage 1. They can do some melee, they can do a bunch of shooting, they can really get that work in. They jump forward with the Dakka jets and play an offensive role. Inside of your box of reinforcements, not reinforcements, but Grots and Kommandos, you've got your little main base there, and inside of it is the final selection of the heavy support, rounding out the battalion, the brigade detachment. The brigade detachment of nice 12 CP is the mech guns, allowing you to shoot twice, do a bunch of crazy stuff, ideally bringing down your opponent before they ever reach you. The the mech guns that are in there are just 3 tractor cannons, which is a nice, easy, cheap selection. You can cut down some of the vehicles for some looters or whatnot. What you also could do is you could bring in, like I said, for cutting down some of the vehicles, you can bring in not mech dreads, but def dreads and also kilocans and whatnot. The ultimate goal of this list is the 5 Shokkjump Dragstas play outside of your opponent's line, ideally on the far side of your opponent's line, while your Dakka jets fly above them, shooting them into bits, and in front of them are your boom Dragstas wagon and your custom boom blastas, harrying them all the way into the point where they meet your Gretchin and are counterattacked by your Kommandos and your big mechs on Warbikes. And that is ideally how the list goes. You shoot your big mech with souped up Shokka twice every turn, and you throw command points every which way you can. Hopefully you enjoy this list. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you tomorrow.